Nobody gives a shit about the word realtor. I'm sorry. I say this lovingly to all of you. I'm there, and I'm a supporter of NAR, to be clear, but I've been very vocal about this. Our ads are about us, and the consumer doesn't give a shit. They care about buying a house, having representation. It's about them. When they sell a house, it's about them. It's not about the number of damn deals you do or being this billion-dollar producer. That it's not. It's about helping people achieve the greatest asset class that builds generational wealth in this country.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of Glennda's Guru. My name is Glennda Baker. I am a real estate agent here in Atlanta, Georgia, and today I am with James Dwiggins of Next Home. And I got to tell you, James, we have actually not ever met.
No, I don't think we have. I mean, our names have passed by, but we've never met in person. So we get to do it now virtually, at least.
I love it. And I'm actually going to see you in Miami. Did you know that?
I did see your name on there. We'll be there in a few weeks. So.
I know that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
So for my audience who may not have gotten the memo about you, give me a little summary. Who is James Dwiggins?
Well, I always start when I'm on stage because I'm the tallest person in the room. I'm 6'7". You cannot miss me. So I'll start there. Little fun fact for you. I have been in residential real estate my entire life. So I've more recently shared some of my background a little bit deeper on some of the issues, but my family started in residential real estate in 1967. My grandfather and grandmother both had a brokerage that they opened. Both my parents are real estate brokers. My mom is still with us. My dad passed away many years ago, but they had their own company who I worked for when I was very young. And then I got involved in prop tech, started and sold a couple prop tech companies in early 2000 and late 2000s, then went to work for a residential real estate franchise called Realty World in Northern California, about 420 offices. Eventually became the vice president, eventually bought that business, and then started Next Home in 2014. Now we're about 630 offices, about 6,000 agents, and around 12 billion in volume. So I've been in the business literally my entire life. So.
I love that. I love that. You know, it's funny. My mom worked for a builder as a bookkeeper here in Atlanta. And I always say, I think I must have like red clay running through my veins because my mom had me out on building sites, you know, since I was able to walk. So it's crazy.
I always like to say I'm an SOB, son of a broker. So... Or you could use the other one too, because people that know me are like, yeah, you kind of are the other way as well. So there's that. But anyways.
So I got to ask you a question. You're 6'7". Did you play basketball?
No, I was actually a horse jockey for a long time. Totally kidding. Made that up. Don't fall for that. So I was not in basketball. I actually used to do it in my keynotes. I'd have a picture of me on a little miniature horse. It was just, and the crowd would believe me for like 30 seconds. So I realized I was kidding. I was tennis and soccer. So I was a goalie, which height made it a strong advantage. So
wow. Well, do you know that only 1% of the U.S. population is actually over 6'2"?
I did not know that, but I could assume that because everybody and their mom asked me if I'm tall and if I play basketball. So it's pretty much a common question. Yeah.
I love it. That was the $10 question. I got some better stuff here for you. So let's talk a little bit about Next Home for people who aren't familiar with Next Home, if there is anybody. So it's a technology, human-based, face-to-face brokerage model, correct?
Yeah. So we're a franchise, and then people franchise with us, just like any other franchise in the business. I would say one of the big things about the company is we're very focused on the consumer, like is kind of our North Star. We do almost everything based around what the consumer wants in a real estate experience. So our brand is much more controlled. It's just done in a way where we're building things around what the customer wants in an experience, everything from our yard signs all the way down to our technology. We have a whole thing in our sort of our philosophy is we call humans over houses. And so we are always doing things that are very focused on putting buyers and sellers in the position that's right for them. The model of the business is very tech heavy, to your point. We have a very beautiful tech stack. We have our own in-house engineering team. We build out a lot of our own technology. And then our business model is designed for, we've really targeted it in the beginning part of our company was towards smaller independents and teams. So that tends to be a significant portion of our offices. And only recently have we started to move into larger operations that, have 50 to 100 agents in them. But the average number of agents in our offices is around 10 on average, hence the team part that I was mentioning. So, yeah.
Right. So it sounds like that you are like jet fuel to the real estate team.
Yeah. So we basically, our model is designed to allow people to have the tech, the training and support, a brand that's, got a significant presence now. But we are, we don't teach the real estate transaction. Our agents tend to be in the business already. So they know how to fill out a contract, they know how to do those things. And we tend to be a little bit more on the higher production side. So our business model is geared towards producers and people in the business. Not that we don't work new licensees, but that's just not our general direction as a company. And it's not supposed to be a revolving door. Let's say that as politely as possible. We tend to be a little bit more picky about the people in the company. And so it's much more about the quality over the quantity of agents in our organization.
So it sounds like that you're doing the brokerage business very different than most brokerages.
Yeah.
Because most brokerages, they thrive on the more agents that they have, the more agents paying this, the more agents that are sitting or not doing anything. It's just like a volume count. And it sounds like to me that you're really much more interested in, attracting people that fit your brand, that are doing business and that are really looking to help the consumer.
Correct.
Not just do it's not a transaction. There's not,
correct.
It's not this many units. It's probably,
correct.
We help this many families.
Yeah, we're much more, so we're privately held. My partner and I are the investor, original owners in the business. Our whole senior team owns part of the company, but we didn't have venture backing. Started this thing with our own money. And so we make decisions a little bit differently than most brokerages, not as a fault, but just we don't have dividends that we're worried about Wall Street returns. So for us, it's about bringing in the right people to help operate the brand. And so what I can with 100% certainty tell you, and anybody who's ever been to one of our events will say the same thing, our culture is very unique in this industry. Because we are selective about who owns a next home office, there's a much more family-oriented culture. And the people here are, as to your point, they're very focused on doing things for the consumer. It's not always about the transaction or another deal. It's much more about the end result for the customer. And so we've built the business around that. Had we gone a different direction, we probably would be 2 or 3 times our size. But we've built this thing on organic growth. I'd say probably 40% of our franchisees came from referrals from other franchisees. And so it's been this much more organic business model. We have never acquired or purchased an office to come in. Every single office in our organization came in willingly on their own, paid the same fee to become part of the company. And so it's very much around the culture of our organization. It's been fun to watch.
I love that. Well, I wore this orange because I saw that orange
I noticed.
color. So I wore this just for you. And I got to tell you, we talked a little bit before we started to record. I was in Columbus, Ohio, and Vadim, who is the next home in Columbus, was part of the group that brought me to Columbus, Ohio to speak to their agents there. And he is an amazing extension of your brand. When you talk about culture and family, and you talk about somebody who just is all about the consumer, I think that he exemplifies that. He
does. Yeah, he's a good guy. I hope he's not listening to this because it'll get to his head. But yeah, he's definitely an amazing human being. And by the way, I was there a month before you were, and I heard that you were coming. I was like, oh, you guys are in for it, man. She's going to be amazing. So thank you for doing that. And you're right. And it's what's cool about when you get to meet some of the people, you can see some of that culture. And I always tell people that, your business starts from the top. So however your leadership team is operating is going to define the culture of your business. And so if you have a mentality of anybody can come in the door, you will have no culture. You
Right.
can't have one. So if you're much more particular about it, making sure you're bringing agents in that share the same values as you do, then you'll actually will build something unique. It may not be as big, but you'll actually love it more. So
Let me ask you a question. So, you've been in real estate forever.
mm,
I've been here since Jesus was a baby. It sounds like you have been too.
mm,
But let me ask you a question. So, what is a practice that you see right now that in 5 years we will not see in the real estate industry?
oh, man, so I'm going to irritate some of your viewers. Look, we're at a really big crossroads in this business, and I've can say this because with respect to a lot of the people that are probably listening or watching, I've been in this longer. There's been all of these conversations about lying over the hill and just changes coming to the industry and realtors being going away and all of this stuff. And yeah, I mean, there's been threats and the industry has changed and adapted, but I think we are at a very we're at a very tough spot. We've had really bad PR about our industry the past few years. Some of it deserved, some of it just the mainstream media doing an exceptionally good job of not getting a single fact straight. And couple that with the fact that there's too many people with a license. There just is. Like I say that lovingly, but if you're doing less than a deal a year, like this isn't the business for you. And so when I make this comment, the industry needs to figure out a different path. It needs to get more professional, whether that's through regulation, which I'm not a fan of, but maybe that's what it takes. Whether it's unfortunately through more litigation, which I do believe is coming because our industry does not learn. But a lot of it has to do with brokers making the choice and what kind of company they want to operate. But I think you're going to see significant consolidation. I think we're at a crossroads now where we have to decide what we want to be to the consumer. They want us, proven by every stat that the use of a realtor is higher than it's ever been, but they are very much questioning what the hell we do. And they have every right to do it because they're looking at it going, real estate's very expensive. Here's what it costs to buy. Here's what I'm paying my realtor. What are they doing for me? Most of what we do is behind the scenes, which I've been very vocal about. We have to make this much more of a forward-facing conversation, sharing much more about what we do, or the people are going to question it. You've got lawyers who are saying they can do it better than we can, even though I think that's funny, but fine. And so, and you've got associations and MLSs, they're all trying to figure out their spot. Everybody is. So I think the industry in 5 years will look different. I think you're going to see like what I talk about in my keynotes. I think the single biggest threat that I've seen in my entire career that I am actually concerned about for the first time is Rocket's acquisition of Mr. Cooper, not Redfin. Two very different conversations. Redfin is an important acquisition for them, but that's top of funnel. Here's what the real concern is. We all know this stat. It's something along the lines of 80% of consumers said they would use their same agent again, but only 20% do. It's somewhere in that number. I don't know what the most recent one is. We as an industry absolutely suck, technical term, at following up with our clients and staying in touch with them. We're awful at it. Rocket has a very specific slide in their investor deck. And it's specifically this. They are talking about how Mr. Cooper, the servicer of 1 out of every 6 mortgages in the United States, they want an 83% recapture rate when they're servicing those loans. In other words, over the 8 to 14 years that a homeowner owns that property, Rocket is going to figure out how to incubate that homeowner to sell that house, buy that house, finance that house, do title with that house, all of it all over again through their own ecosystem. And if we don't think that a company with $800 million in the bank and tech beyond anything our industry can even comprehend isn't going to try to figure out how to crack that code, then we're dreaming. Like we're just being completely naive to reality. So when I make this comment, I think between 5 to 10 years, you will see significant consolidation of the industry. The broker split's going to feel more pressure than it already has. Agents are going to feel pressure on their compensation. And the only way to make up that difference is through volume. So what I kind of call teamerages will get bigger. I think you'll see most single agents that are not doing nearly enough production. There won't be enough margin in the business because Rocket wants to cut that average transaction cost from 40,000 down to 20. That's also in their investor deck. Whether they hit it or not, it's not the point. The point is the practice is moving this direction. These are all things that we as an industry have got to figure out fast. How do we explain what we do? How do we justify what we do? How do we maintain relationship with that client? How do we make sure they're willing to pay what will be perceived, in my opinion, as a premium for convenience and service, two things that the consumer will pay for? How do all of these things come together when you've got big, massive Wall Street firms that are going to try and crack that code? And so I think you'll see significant consolidation in the brokerage space. You'll see consolidation in the agent space. I think you'll see a lot more teams get even larger, but the margins get smaller. And then how do you attach ancillary revenues? And that's the thing no one's talking about deeply enough. Every single team will have to figure out how to attach, which by the way is not illegal. It's what Rocket does, or is what they're planning to do. But how do they attach mortgage, title, and escrow, home warranty, insurance, and receive a piece of that as well, fully RESPA compliant? But how do they pick up the difference in those margins? Because that's going to be the name of the game.
Well, that was a mouthful.
That was a lot. Well, you asked.
Do you know what? I got to tell you, and you saw me over here furiously making notes. So, because it's interesting that you say that. So, Mr. Cooper bought one of my mortgages on my investment property. And every time that I log in to my portal for Mr. Cooper, it says, "Are you thinking of buying or selling real estate?"
Mm-hmm.
Every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then it says, if you check yes, because I wanted to see what it would say. If you check yes, it says, what would you do with this? Would you sell this current home or would you keep it? And so literally
they're starting the incubation.
Every time you log in, they're reminding you, like, when was the last time you picked up the phone and called your past client and said, "Hey, are you thinking about buying or selling real estate?" And Mr. Cooper is asking it every single time you log into their portal.
Yeah, and imagine if next is, so remember these acquisitions will be done by the end of the year pending SEC approval, but imagine if you're going, "Yeah, I'm interested in selling it." And they're going, "Okay, great. So we've got a bundled package."
Yeah.
And just imagine it just being this. The average real estate transaction currently right now, when you use, a realtor, you're going to pay X in compensation. You're going to pay X to process the loan. You're going to pay X for title. This is the average compensation. We'll use their number of $40,000 for an average price home in the US. We can do it for 20 when you do it inside Rocket's ecosystem.
And do you think that Rocket will hire real estate agents?
They just did. They just got it. The acquisition of Redfin gave them employee-based agents. So that's the part people aren't paying attention to as well. So if you look at the rules, it's a RESPA issue when you're an independent contractor. It's not a RESPA issue when you're an employee of the company. You can bundle services because you work for the organization as a W-2 based employee. Well, what is Redfin agents? A large portion of them are employees. I don't know Rocket's business model, by the way. I'm speculating just from reading the same stuff that Wall Street people read, but it would make sense that they've got they've got, to your point, the login. Here's what it is. Would you like to talk to a Redfin agent? And while they're on the phone, they're going, "We can absolutely list that home for you. We can also have one of our agents help you find another property, and we'll do everything in-house, and we can save you roughly $20,000. Now, I'm not suggesting everybody's going to do that, but I am suggesting there's a lot of people who will take that up. And I think there's like a 50% savings, 20 grand, 20 grand. That's a lot of money. I don't care who you are. Yeah. So that's what we're facing over the next length of time. But it's not just Rocket. Zillow's been building a super app ecosystem for some time. And the one no one's talking about is ICE. Who's doing the same system from another way into it from a data perspective. So we've all been talking about an end-to-end solution, but there are big players with big capital who are building it or have built it and are going to be coming into the market. My biggest concern is, we all know this. I've said this before, and for Zillow people, don't get mad at me, but If you want to get rid of the portals today, all you had to do was maintain the relationship with your customer. If you maintain the relationship with your customer, they don't go back and become a lead on a big national real estate portal.
Well, it's so true.
It's just pretty basic. Like if the customer is thinking about selling, instead of forgetting about you because you haven't talked to them in 8 years and then going to becoming a lead that's been now sold to a new agent for 40% referral fee, just maintain that relationship. Well, okay. Now imagine a company servicing your loan to your point where you see them every month and they're incubating you and doing the things that our industry should be doing. Yeah, that's a threat. That's a big threat. Absolutely. Yeah.
And when you think about they service 1 in 6 mortgages, like that's a lot.
And they'll probably acquire more.
Yeah. And think about because they bought Flagstar. That's how I got to them, was they bought all of the loans from Flagstar. Yeah. But what's really interesting to me, I have to tell you, this is not where I thought our conversation was going to go, but I'm really happy that it's going here because you're really giving me a lot to think about and a lot to talk about. But let me ask you this. What do you think about the data that's uploaded into MLS? The pictures, the disclosures, the floor plans, the videos. What do you think about all of that data that's being sold here, there, and everywhere?
As far as whether the MLS should do that or not, or
what is the risk to the seller? What's the risk to the seller? What's the risk to the agent? You're uploading your disclosure and you're talking about insurance claims, or you're talking about additions that you made to the property, things that maybe were not permitted. You're putting 100 pictures of 123 Banana Street online, and then your municipality says, oh, wait a minute, they don't have a permit for a pool house.
Man, it's a good question, right? So this just goes into the debate of, what is the MLS what the MLS should be? It's a good question. Who owns the data? Privacy issues. We obviously just got, I'm sure you were aware of this or talked about it. We just got a massive pass on one-to-one consent. That would have been just an absolute nightmare for realtors. And by the way, I'm sure you've heard the same thing. 99% of realtors had no idea what I was talking about when I brought up one-to-one consent. That literally, people are probably going to look it up right now, that we literally dodged a bullet on. I think it's a very good question. And, what is the license agreement that you signed? What does it state? When you sign, which I'll add this in, you can look up a Deloitte study that I put into in one of my keynotes, because everyone's talking about informed consent. Like, oh yeah, well, as long as the seller says yes, then it's fine. It's informed consent. I'm like, stop. When was the last time your seller read anything you put in front of them? You put that crap in DocuSign, they hit start, sign, and move on with their lives. Deloitte study shows 90% of American consumers don't read anything that they actually sign. Anyways, I think it's a good question. What is the MLS doing with the data? Where are they sending it out? Where's it going to? What's the revenue they're generating off of that? Should that be coming back to you? Should your seller know that information? Those are all big debates that we're having. And also, every MLS operates differently. So they're not all operating the same. You've got obviously NAR governed MLSs. You have non-NAR governed MLSs that have different policies. The sad part is that everyone's trying to figure out how to make a buck off these 4 million transactions that are happening annually right now. Everyone's trying to figure out how not to pay fees or get their fees lowered. Everyone's questioning the value proposition of an MLS or association. I will add this in a couple of different contexts. My view is that we need to be thinking much more long-term about MLSs. Certainly, there should be a lot less of them. I've been not shy about my opinion. There should be massive consolidation in that. But at the same time, MLSs need to get to a place where there is more opportunity for companies to create more products and services and be more progressive to represent the realtor. For example, there's not a single brokerage website other than Redfin that is anywhere close to competing with Zillow or Realtor or Homes.com from a consumer perspective. It couldn't even come in the same planet. You can go to some of these sites and get so much data where, as an example, in the MLS, I think the MLS should have more data. Like, for example, I own a house in the mountains, and I didn't realize that in the winter, it's $1,000 a month to fill it with propane. Like, I would like to know that when I bought it. It'd be nice to have that information online so I can go, oh, well, here's the expenses, but I didn't realize I'm going to spend $1,000 a month to fill a propane tank, right? So we need to be thinking much differently about it. But the truth is, since you asked, the gold of the future is data. That's just where we are. The data and the ability to understand that data and what is available in that data is where there's significant revenue, because it allows people to spend less to get more qualified leads or get deeper in a funnel based upon, the information you have. And here's the big one. What happens if the MLS goes away? I mean that genuinely, because what happens if all of a sudden there's 15 brokerages that are controlling 90% of the listing inventory and there is no MLS? What do you do then?
I mean, that sounds crazy.
Not really, because I mean, that's where we're actually headed. If people can talk about CCP all they want, but the reality is what we're talking about long term, if you put all the chess pieces together, is destroying the very repository that we spent 40 years building, because it will end up being what my grandfather had, which is 2 or 3 companies in a market that dominate all the inventory and they don't share data.
Oh yes, I started in real estate when there were books, but it's very interesting to look at, and you can argue clear cooperation, 6 ways to Sunday, and pocket listings and private listings and all of that kind of stuff. You can argue it many different ways. Ultimately, and I believe this, I believe that the real estate agent's role is changing quicker now than ever before.
I would agree.
And we're not being paid for data. The data is not where the agent has value.
Agreed.
It's the interpretation of that data.
It always has been.
And now the consumer is armed and dangerous because they feel like they have all the data that they need without interpretation.
Yeah. I'll give you a stat that, by the way, it'll blow your mind. I have my brain works in weird ways with data. So in 2001, I'm going to go back before Zillow was founded. Zillow was founded in 2005, just for perspective. They're on their 20-year anniversary this year. So 2001, the use of a real estate agent on the buy side was 69% of the time. You probably are thinking that's way too low. It's not. 69% of the time, a realtor was used on the buy side in 2001. Today, it's 88%. Zillow was founded in 2005. So you've had all of this technology innovation and data, and the consumer is armed with everything possible. You would think that it would have gone the other way. It's like, well, I don't need the realtor. I don't need to do any of that. But what you said was so important, because I think about, make fun of myself. I think about like when I get sick, I look up my symptoms on WebMD, and then I've got some random disease from some third world country, and I'm like emailing my doctor going, I'm dying. And he's like, just stop, James, you have a freaking cold. Like, would you just relax? Right. So, but that's what's the interesting part. And I relate that to real estate is when you have so much information and so much misinformation, and it's such an infrequent transaction and it is such an expensive transaction, then I believe very strongly that people want someone to help them interpret, to your point. And I don't think the role of a realtor goes away. When you ask me the original question, I think it consolidates. I think our role shifts, but I don't think the human side of it leaves, because it's not like I can Amazon my house. That's why I find it funny when I see these AI companies pop up and I go, I'm pretty smart. Like, I'm in residential real estate. Could probably do this on my own. I'd still hire someone else who works in my market to help me through this process, because they understand the very specific details of what it's like to live here in the East Bay of Northern California and the things I need to be aware of, because one mistake is going to cost me more than the commission to pay that agent for their services. Now, I'm educated enough to understand that, but I also think most consumers are too, which is why they continue to go, you know what? Like, I did all this research, but I really need somebody to tell me, like, am I doing the right call? Is this the right house? Can you tell me what's wrong? Tell me about the area. What's the zoning? What's the schools? What's the politics? Like, give me some insight before I go spend my life savings on the property.
That's so true. That is, there's never a problem till there's a problem. But when there's a problem in real estate, it's a big ass problem.
Yeah. And it's an expensive problem, by the way. So
it's very expensive.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to me. the video that I posted today was about, it was a buyer that actually called in that we were talking to during, I was filming my videos, and this buyer happened to call in that we're going to be working with. And I said, hey, what search portals are you using to search for properties? And he said Zillow. And when I get tired of Zillow, I go to Redfin. And I said, okay. I said, I get it. I said, that's definitely the tender of real estate. I just want to make sure that whatever you do, don't ever click the button contact agent, because that's a disaster waiting to happen. And I think that we need to educate the consumer on, because they're going to go online on some sort of search portal, and helping educate them, helping them understand. When you talk about humans over houses, that is really where you win the battle of technology. It's so interesting to me that you're so tech heavy, you're so tech forward, you're all about culture. Let's drink the Kool-Aid. But mainly your foundation of your company is all about humans over houses.
Correct.
And there's never been a more important time to move from service provider into relationship with the people that you're helping with what is usually their largest single asset.
Yeah, I'm going to tie this to your comment. This is really an interesting conversation. I'm going to get myself in trouble, but I don't care. So I had a opportunity to interview Beverly Jackson. Beverly Jackson is the head of, basically she's the head of, I don't know what the term is. She's the producer for all of the TV commercials that you see on Zillow, that you see on TV. And she used to work for MGM. She's absolutely one of the most brilliant people. By the way, you should totally have her on your podcast. It would blow your mind. So I say this all the time, and it's I think if people really spend the time to look at this and think about what I'm saying, it'll make sense. If we really put the consumer as our North Star, and we do it in a way that is about them, you'll connect with them more. Let me make that comment. If you think about most of the TV commercials, in fact, almost all of them that were done by the National Association of Realtors, they're just garbage. They're garbage because nobody gives a shit about the word realtor. I'm sorry. I say this lovingly to all of you. I'm there, and I'm a supporter of any art, to be clear, but I've been very vocal about this. Our ads are about us, and the consumer doesn't give a shit. They care about buying a house, having representation. It's about them. When they sell a house, it's about them. What Zillow did exceptionally well is their advertisements are about the consumer, and they tie the realtor into it, but you don't have to say, my realtor did this or use a realtor. It's implied. And the advertisements are so good. I showed this on stage when I interviewed her at our conference. And it was so interesting to watch the audience. I have 1,000 people in the room, and there's a lot of people that hate Zillow in that room. They just do. And it was interesting to watch because the commercial was so emotional. It was a single mom with her daughter trying to find a house. They've been getting shot down. They've been writing offers, haven't been getting accepted. You're relating to them because everybody's been there. They've represented clients doing this, and you can feel the emotion, and you can see the realtors like, she says like a couple lines, keep your head up. We're going to figure it out. Like your realtor's helping them. And then they find the house, and like the lights come up, and like half my audience is crying. I'm crying because I'm like, oh man, like that's the American dream. They finally got it, etc. But Zillow just thread that needle so perfectly.
Oh yeah.
Because it was about the customer, and everything we've been taught is just always about us, and people are so sick of it. And I go, if we were just shifted to the consumer, that we're here, that we're about you, then people won't think of us any worse. I'm tying that back because we share stories on that website. So humansoverhouses.com. I would really encourage everybody to go see it because it's just important. We literally pay for our agents to send stories to us of consumers who have had adversity and finally got into home ownership, and they will make you cry. They will be about veterans or widowed family member, just really interesting stories. And we do it to remind people about who we serve and why we serve them. and what this is about. It's not about the number of damn deals you do or being this billion-dollar producer. That it's not. It's about helping people achieve the greatest asset class that builds generational wealth in this country. And so I tell people all the time, copy it. Do whatever you want. I don't care. But as soon as you start showing people about who your customer really is, it shifts the conversation. And it's just right. It's just right.
You hit the nail on the head. It makes my head spin around and snot fly out of my nose when I see some agent that says, I've done 30 million in Q1. I've sold 100 houses in Q1. I'm the number one agent, all this stuff. And I sold 123 Banana Street in 4 hours, 40,000 over the list price with 4 offers. And it's like, you're diminishing your value every time that you open your mouth, because all you're talking about is you. Mm-hmm. You don't tell anybody. You don't talk about how you helped them. How did you get them from point A to point B? And I'll tell you, the Super Bowl commercial from Rocket Mortgage. Like, think about it. You come out of a commercial, and the entire stadium is singing along to the song in your commercial.
I was there. I know. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it was a trip. I didn't even realize it, by the way, until it happened, because we were there and we were all singing, and I was just like, holy shit, that's amazing. Like, they got the whole stadium to do that.
Yeah. It's just, to me, and you're right. And Zillow has done, you can throw all the shade you want to throw at Zillow. I can talk shit about them all day, every day, and twice on Sunday. But the bottom line is that they have figured out a way to connect with the consumer on many different levels, where real estate agents have fallen flat time and time and time and time again. And I almost feel like we're getting worse rather than getting better.
There was a video I found on TikTok, and I have a 4-year-old, so I'm in that phase of, falling in love with my daughter every time she does something cute. And it was completely 100%. You could tell it was not a made up thing. It was not scripted. It was just a moment where, I'm going to get it slightly wrong, but it was a single father. You could tell he was like in construction or something. Parent, you could tell he was just like widowed. And he's very close with his daughter. She was probably 14, and there was somebody videoing it, and they were in front of a house, and she was very upset because her dad was trying to get this house, and she thought that he didn't get it. And so the realtor was there on the side and just said, the house was sold, and she got really upset. And then, she's looking at the camera, like pissed off that she's being filmed. And then she turned around, and he's like, "We got it." And she's like, "What?" He's like, "We got it. We got the house." And then the realtor she turns to the realtor, and she just hands her the keys. Okay. So I get emotional. Like, you get this video. So I said to the head of marketing at AR, I said, here's what you need to do. Take that $30 million ad budget, or whatever the hell the number is, throw it out the door. Don't bring any ad firms in. Fire all those idiots, because they don't understand a thing about anything. Here's what you do. You run a campaign. You want every realtor, all 1.5 million of them, to follow a campaign where you're going to give them some basic outlines, where they're going to do real videos with actual clients, not scripted, where they submit this in, and it's them helping the consumer, but it's 100% about the consumer, right? And you take the 5 best of those, where you run those as your TV commercials. 15, 30-second slots. And you don't say anything. You just put the realtor logo in the bottom right-hand corner at the end. That's it. It's not about anything other than this experience where each one of those people, every person watching it, can relate to it. They're like, they're emotional. I get it. Now we're changing the realtor brand. We're making it about them. But we're very delicately going, this is us, but it's not in your face. It's just, this was a moment. Maybe we call them moments. I don't know. But it was just, I'm sitting here going, there's such an easy way to shift the perception of our industry if we just start putting the consumer first.
Sit down, James. We could call it moments that move people. That was good.
It was good.
That was good.
It was good. I want 10%. You take 10%. I want 10% royalties too. So
I love it. I love it so much. I get, I got to tell you, you were sick. You didn't come to Nashville. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh my God. I had 102 fever in my hotel room. That sucked.
You had no idea. When you talked about WebMD, I was like, oh, he must have been doing that. And when he was in Nashville and he was sick. But I want to make this little note. Sorry about that. But I was thinking about you when you said that, and I have to tell you, when I did a little bit of research on you, and I had some questions prepared, I always have questions just in case, it's like a Liam Neeson interview. Because, he's like the worst person ever to like interview because he has like one word answers. Yeah. So I always have a couple questions over here that, I can always refer to if you're not really vibing.
Engaging. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I had no idea that I was going to, number one, just love and really kind of connect and vibe and totally get that and be so enthralled in the conversation. But I love how you get it. And you're looking to make the industry better. Like you're trying to level us all up.
I care very deeply about this industry. It's like a conversation I had, we'll go here, but I'm not going to go too deep in it because I'm tired of talking about it. But it's like a conversation I had recently where I've been sharing the story of my grandfather's company. This is an important one, actually. So we're having this big debate about seller choice and all of these things. And I don't want to get into the details of that, but I just want to give a historical perspective for people. My grandfather ran a very successful real estate company in the central coast of California, a place called San Luis Obispo, one of the top 5 cities in the United States to live. And he was a mentor of mine. I would go over to his house on Tuesdays and I'd bring Pizza Hut, pizza, and Miller Lite. That was his thing. Don't ask me why. He's an old rancher, but that was his thing, right? And I remember asking this one question. I was in my 20s. This is a long time ago now. I was in my 20s, and I remember asking him how he built such a big, successful real estate company. So he started independent. He became an ERA franchise. I actually know what that stands for, Electronic Realty Associates Fax Machine. And then he sold it, but he had 126 agents. Well, this obviously. So he had 126 agents in the late 60s and 70s and early 80s. That would be the equivalent of about 1,000 agent brokerage today, for context. And I said, how did you get to be so successful with it? How'd you grow your company so big? He goes, it's really simple. I had all the inventory. I'm like, what does that mean? And he goes, well, there's this thing called the MLS book, and it comes out once a month. And if you have all the inventory, you basically, nobody knows about what's available for sale for at least 30 days at a time, unless you're like running around trying to see what's for sale. And at that time, everybody had inventory. And what they did was, ready? They would try to sell all their inventory internally first, because then you double end the deal, which created more profitability for the brokerage. By the way, agents back in that time frame, 50-50 splits were common. And only if you couldn't sell it internally, then they'd cooperate with everybody else. And the process was absolutely awful. Sellers had no idea. Buyers had no idea it was for sale. Sellers didn't realize the double-ended deals were helping the brokerage. It was a freaking mess. The MLS wasn't anything like what it is today. We've spent 40 years building the greatest marketplace on the planet. And what my comment was, there were like 3 companies that had all the agents. If you didn't have the MLS of today, you'd see the world go back to the same way it was, where you've got 3 or 4 companies that control the market share. Agents won't work for a brokerage that doesn't have the inventory. And it was about the brokerage. It wasn't about the consumer. So when we talk about these big conversations, we talk about seller choice. I'm not against it, as long as you aren't steering them. As long as you are actually educating them and you're giving them choice. Because here's the truth, people. You can argue with this all day long and I will debate the shit out of you for it. 99% of sellers want to sell their house as quickly as possible for the highest price possible. And it's proven by every single economic study on planet Earth that the largest marketplace you can put something gets you the most potential eyeballs and offers and sales price. The end. And so when we're having these big discussions, is it about us or is it truly about the customer? Truly, is it about the customer? And I don't think we're having that honest conversation. It's like, oh, well, the seller should have choice. Yeah, if they are fully informed.
Right.
Fully informed about what it is that's going on. And this is example of why I'm going to give EXP great credit. Their CEO, Leo, good friend of mine, fantastic leader. That advisory form they put out should be the North Star for how it is. They are correctly advising sellers on the risks of things. I'd go a step further and even talk about dual agency being a risk of higher potential litigation. But like, if we are fully informing people and not steering them into something that benefits us, fine. But you only need, and you know this, you only need to go back a small period of time to see how the world was and how bad that world was that we've spent time to fix, which I'm not saying the system's perfect by any means. But man, we are so stupid in this business if we think long-term a fractured MLS system is better for us or the consumer. You only have to go outside the United States to see what a mess that is, where these people around the world are going, shit, your guys' marketplace is amazing. We don't have anything here like that, you know? You got me on my soapbox.
You are, but you know what? You make such a great distinction, and that is that the seller, obviously it's their house, they're making the payments on it. You know, they should have seller choice, but you're exactly right. They're being steered. They're being packaged and bamboozled into thinking that this is a better way. I went on a listing appointment, I guess it's been maybe 6 weeks ago. And the seller said, hey, I want to make sure you know, we talked to an agent from here and we talked to an agent from here. And, you know, we're going to, talk with you too. I'm like, great, no problem. I welcome the competition. And so I'm in my listing appointment. He said, well, we talked to this person from ABC Real Estate, and they talked to us about putting it internally on their internal MLS, because they have 36,000 agents that can, give us some pricing feedback. And, we wouldn't have to put it on the MLS because the price reductions, would hurt us, blah, blah, blah. And I let him go finish the spiel that he had gotten from this agent. And I said to him, let me explain something to you right now. Any agent that tells you that they're going to take advice from 36,000 real estate agents on the price of your home, I hope that you threw him out immediately, because any person who has to have some other real estate agent tell them a pricing strategy should not be trusted to list your home.
So with you.
And I said to him, and on top of that, there aren't 36,000 agents that know their ass from a hole in the ground about this specific property, because it is a very specific property. And I said, it could cost you $100,000 to list it with this person. Like, because they have no idea what they're talking about. They don't know about the pricing strategy. And so it was so interesting. And then the other thing that really kind of, makes my head spin around, it's not flat on my nose, is when you say on average, homes that are sold privately sell for 2.9% more than homes on the MLS. How can you give a statistic about 123 Banana Street sold for 2.9% more than if it had been on MLS when it was never on MLS?
Can I throw a thought in there too?
Well, I guess you're the guest.
I mean, if you're saying that you're selling it 2.9% more, not on the MLS, which means you're selling it internally, just curious, do you think the buyer of the same company represented by an agent in the company would feel harmed that they're overpaying by 2.9%? If all of their listings are selling for 2.9% more, then the buyer's getting screwed by 2.9%, right? I mean, wouldn't that be a potential claim?
I love that.
Anybody think about the potential claim there?
Well, and you're screaming it
throwing
from
it out there.
You're screaming it from the rooftops. And on top of that,
It's Exhibit
This is
A.
I love it. That is
You're right, though, by the way. I found this so funny. It's like, well, we're going to test the price. Isn't that what you're hiring the agent to do, is to look at the comps and tell you what the home is worth? Like, that's common sense.
right.
Also, why would you, if the goal is to sell the home and you really want to test the price, wouldn't it make sense logically and economically? Testing the price would be putting it in front of everybody who can possibly buy it to tell you what the home is worth, not a small number of people who, if you're going to show it to 2 people versus 50, and those 2 people think it's worth this, but you got 50, and there's a bunch of people in there that think it's worth more, wouldn't that make sense that they might get more that way? I mean, I don't know. Supply and demand economics apparently doesn't exist anymore. So, yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But that kind of segues me into the next topic that I want to hit on before I let you go. And that is dual agency, because you made a comment about that you think that dual agency is the next wave of litigation.
Massive.
And I couldn't agree with you more.
Mhm.
I haven't done dual agency in years and years and years and years and years and years, because how do you get the seller the most money and you get the buyer the best deal? It's almost impossible. And there's never a problem till there's a problem. And when there's a problem, it's a big ass problem. And you've seen the litigation of the person in Florida who had the listing, and Jeff Bezos was the buyer, and they had the buyer, and they took X number less money. And now the seller is saying, wait a minute, this guy owned the property on either side. He would have paid me a truckload for my house.
It's a serious problem, and I'm gonna really take you down the rabbit hole here, because I've got some data that no one's seen yet. So I'll share it. I'll share it with you. So first, if you are being sued, before the law firm will represent you, they do what they call a clearance check. So they verify that they don't represent the plaintiff or any of their other entities or parties. So there's not a conflict of interest. That's why you can't have the same law firm represent you on either side, because there's inherent bias. Just want to make that statement real quick. So single agent, dual agency, I am completely against, and I think it should be banned in all 50 states. Currently banned in 9. I think the rest should ban it too. I think that there becomes a major conversation about 2 agents on the same team, which no one's talking about. That's also a big problem. And then I'm a little bit torn on 2 agents in the same brokerage still, because independent contractors, they're very much separated. So I see less of an issue there. I see the conflict being the brokerage benefits when 2 agents representing both sides are doing it, the brokerage benefits. And I think that's a big conflict of interest. Now I'm going to tie this back now. You ready? So I talked to one of the largest insurance carriers. I can't name who, because I agreed to not say their name publicly. Did this late last year. 2 most common claims for E&O insurance. Here we go. Ready? Number 1, failure to disclose. Number 2, misrepresentation. By the way, state regulators who I've spoken to, because I did a keynote at Arello just 2 weeks ago, which is all the state regulators. If a buyer asks you how long that home has been on the market and you are leaving off the time frame it was off the MLS, that is misrepresentation, just for clarity, because they classify as days on market when you have an active listing agreement and the property is for sale. So everybody telling you that, oh, we'd only accumulate days on market, is a complete bullshit line. That is absolutely something the lawyers will look at, because the property is active, it's got a listing agreement, and if somebody made an offer and the seller's willing to accept, it is for sale. Misrepresentation, the second most common claim. Failure to disclose at 36% is the most common claim for E&O. Misrepresentation at 22%. And you ready? Under failure to disclose, 14% of those claims are done as dual agency, with an average amount incurred of $63,000. Under misrepresentation, 17% of them are done as dual agency at $76,000 average incurred. Now, here you go. What the biggest concern that the E&O carriers have is the direction we're going with off-market listings are going to increase the percentage of dual agency. Logically, the brokerages that are pushing this are trying to double end deals. I don't care what scripting or Kool-Aid they're passing around. It is about trying to keep more business in-house. I know, because my grandfather used to do that in the 70s and 80s. The companies are looking at it going, if dual agency increases, which they're expecting it to do based upon this stupid direction our industry is going, the words were this: we will continue to jack up the insurance rates, and if there is too much liability, we will no longer offer errors and omissions coverage to companies that are doing dual agency. I don't know how you operate a real estate business if you can't get E&O coverage. But nobody wants to talk about this problem.
Oh, my stars and stripes. Do you know, I have to tell you, I think that I'm very well informed. I mean, I think I keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on. But I got to tell you, that little tidbit right there, that is that. But
I don't know how you do a real estate transaction as a brokerage, to be clear. You can't, for agents, I'm going to break this down for you real fast. Your E&O coverage is a policy just like any insurance carrier, right? There's the amount of money you pay based upon the number of claims that you have. The number of claims rise, the policy rises too. It becomes to a point where the insurance carrier doesn't like the number of claims. What do? They drop you. And if you as an agent think that you could do real estate transactions without E&O coverage, there's no way, shape, or form that is ever going to happen, because all it will take is one claim and you don't have the insurance company covering your legal bills, you will bankrupt your business, because that is the only way out. Period. The end. This is a huge problem that no one is even talking about. That the fact that the more you do deals internally under dual agency, you are increasing your policy risk, and eventually the insurance companies will go, yeah, this isn't worth it. There's a formula there. They've already got it. No one's hit it yet. But if you've ever had an E&O claim, and you I'm sure have heard brokers talk about this, all it takes is one, and then all of a sudden your policy renewal doubles. Now imagine if it was 2, 3, 4, 5. And by the way, one of the most common ways to get into a E&O claim is through dual agency. Someone feels they were wronged in the process, and all the insurance company is going to do is pay it out. They aren't going to fight it, and they're just going to jack your rates up.
And something goes wrong, the sewer to the street, whatever. So, it never ever fails. The roof, they came back 90 days later and the insurance company said it needed a new roof, even though they wrote the binder. And then, it's the real estate agent's fault.
I mean, I don't know how any real estate company today, I mean, I know why, but like if I was running a brokerage, I'm running a franchise, to be clear, but if I was running a brokerage, I'd be like, hell no. I don't want anything to do with that. None of you are representing a buyer and a seller. Maybe I'd have it referred to another agent in the same company, but there's a level of risk there that I would have to assess. But to me, this is such a huge problem that's coming our way with the direction the industry has been moving. And no one is having this discussion. No one's having this discussion. No.
I love it. I love it. Wow. James, I have to tell you, you blew my mind today. And not a lot of people leave me speechless. Not a lot of people open my eyes even wider than they already are. And I have to tell you, I almost could not look away. It took everything I had not to look down at my notes, but still take them. You have been amazing. A wealth of knowledge.
Appreciate that.
I love where you're going. I love what your brokerage stands for, but I love where you're going within the industry to make us better. So let me say thank you very much.
No, I appreciate that very much. I do care greatly about our industry a lot.
Yeah. And so humansoverhouses.com is where the stories are.
Yep. There's a new one up there today. Actually, it's really, really good, but you can go check it out. So
I am going to go check it out. And then I was going to ask you, for my audience that wants to hear more, tell us a little bit about your podcast, Unfiltered.
Yeah. So we do a podcast called Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered. And you just go realestateinsiderfilters.com. And we interview really interesting guests. We'll have to have you on, by the way. Where we interview really interesting guests and executives around the industry. And we have really fun conversations. My co-host and I are complete idiots, and we have lots of fun doing it. But it's everybody from, Nakia Wright at NER, to Jeremy Waxman, the CEO of Zillow, to Glenn Kelman at Redfin. It's everybody. And so we have lots of interesting guests on there talking about very unique subjects. And we say unfiltered because kind of like here, the guest gets to say what they want, and we don't filter anybody. So it's a fun dialogue. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite part. It's real, it's reliable, it's relatable, it's relevant, it's raw, and it's refreshing.
Yeah, I love it. Appreciate
Awesome,
that.
awesome. James, and they can find you on your podcast and on social media. You are.
Man, I'm everywhere. There's only one. Dwiggins is a pretty simple name to find, but I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. Just type in my name, you'll find me anywhere. So I'm not shy about my opinions. So you'll see posts everywhere. So
I love that. And I actually have my own hashtag Google Glennda. So you could just do hashtag Dwiggins.
Dwiggy. My nickname is Dwiggy.
Oh,
Stefan Swanepoel, funny story on one of our shows. He called me Dwiggy, and my co-host, who's my business partner, I looked at him. I was just like, God damn it. So I'm just like, here we go. And Keith's just like, Dwiggy? What? And I was like, oh God. And I used to be a nickname that I had when I was in high school. And then thanks, Stefan, by the way, if you're listening, he said it. And now I can't go anywhere without somebody going, what's up, Dwiggy? And I'm just like,
I love it. I love it.
I'm rolling with it.
Oh, my stars. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Glennda Baker. I'm a real estate agent in Atlanta, Georgia. And today I had a very earth-shattering, eye-opening conversation with James Dwiggins, not Dwiggy. With James Dwiggins from Next Home. James, thank you so much, and I hope you have a fantastic day.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.